We are watching developments out of Istanbul, Turkey this morning, where officials from Russia and Ukraine are holding their first direct talks in 3 years. Now, they were supposed to meet yesterday, but that failed to materialize. However, expectations for this meeting are low, with neither Presidents Putin nor Zelenskyy set to attend. And President Trump has said a meeting between himself and the Russian leader was needed to break the deadlock. Seth Jones joins us now. He's the president of the Defense and Security Department at CSIS. That's the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Morning to you, Seth. Thanks for being with us. Help us sense how significant this Russia-Ukraine meeting is, considering neither leader is present.
Well, thanks, Errol, and good morning. I do think it's important that the Russians and Ukrainians, with a number of countries, the Turks, the U.S., is finally talking. So helpful step. The problem, of course, is that in particular, the Russians have maximalist objectives and war aims right now, ones that I think are unachievable. In fact, almost every indication of the negotiations so far that the Russians want to drag these negotiations out with unrealistic goals and hope, much like the U.S. did in Afghanistan or even in Syria a few years before that, just finally caves in, gets tired, and walks away. And that, I think, would work to Russia's advantage. So not a lot of expectations that we're going to get results, but at least helpful that they're talking.
And we know that President Zelenskyy has said Russia cannot be trusted, even if they were to enter into an agreement. History shows that Russia couldn't hold up their end of the bargain. And President Trump seems to be comfortable inserting himself in the solution. He said yesterday that there won't be any movement until he meets with Russian leader Vladimir Putin. Let's just play that for our viewers.
Look, nothing's going to happen until Putin and I get together, okay? And obviously he wasn't going to go. He was going to go, but he thought I was going to go. He wasn't going if I wasn't there. And I don't believe anything's going to happen, whether you like it or not, until he and I get together.
So translate that for us. Does that mean President Trump is in the driver's seat, or it's Putin who holds all the cards here?
Well, I think President Trump would like to believe he's in the driver's seat, but I think the reality right now is that unless there's actual pressure and costs imposed on the Russians, costs meaning sanctions that are imposed on them because their economy is not doing particularly well, or an increase in military aid to Ukraine, because the Russians are going to hit 1 million casualties in Ukraine this summer, which is extraordinary. Unless increased punishment is on the Russians, I just don't think that that Vladimir Putin is going to actually cut a deal in Ukraine. They're on the military initiative right now. So I wouldn't say Putin holds all the cards, but I certainly don't think Trump does either.
And we did see Chinese President Xi Jinping in Moscow for celebrations the other week. We know China has backed up Russia quite a bit. Meanwhile, Ukraine is still being beat on a regular basis by Russian incoming munitions. And so how difficult is the moment right now for Ukrainians?
Well, it is difficult for Ukraine right now. We see two types of military operations. One is we see just the contact lines where the Russians do have the initiative. They've got the military momentum, although they're moving glacially slow and taking extraordinary casualties. But what they really are doing is cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and drones targeting Ukrainian civilian populations, really in an attempt to undermine the morale of Ukraine. So the longer these negotiations continue to take, the more the Ukrainian population, at the very least, is going to suffer.
Yeah. All right. Seth Jones with a reality check for us. We appreciate your insight. Thanks, Seth.